The world stood still in admiration as Nathaniel Carter, the strikingly handsome and fiercely ambitious CEO of Carter Enterprises, exchanged vows with Victoria Sterling, the glamorous daughter of the influential real estate magnate Gregory Sterling. Beneath the opulence of cascading chandeliers, silk-draped banquet tables, and the symphony of violins echoing through the grand ballroom, whispers of envy and admiration filled the air as cameras captured the perfect union of wealth, power, and beauty, a match the elite had deemed nothing short of royalty. But beneath Nathan's charismatic smile and Victoria's dazzling facade, an invisible storm quietly brewed, threatening to shatter the illusion. As the night unfolded and guests toasted to a future painted in gold, Nathan, lost in thought, couldn't escape a peculiar sensation gnawing at his core, a strange unease lurking beneath his skin, unexplainable, unwelcome. When the celebration faded and the couple retired to their luxurious honeymoon suite overlooking the moonlit bay, Nathan attempted to embrace his bride, eager to consummate their union, only to be met with a horrifying realization. His body betrayed him, refusing to respond, leaving him frozen in confusion and silent dread. Victoria's alluring smile instantly morphed into a mask of disgust, her eyes narrowing like sharpened daggers as she stepped back, her voice slicing the air like a blade dipped in venom, whispering, "What is this, Nathan? Don't tell me you're broken on our wedding night?" A cold sweat drenched Nathan's skin as panic constricted his chest, and when doctors were summoned in secret, their somber faces confirmed the nightmare. Permanent nerve damage, irreversible. A rare medical condition, they claimed, though the timing seemed cruelly precise. Humiliation wrapped around Nathan like an iron chain, dragging him into an abyss of despair as his mind replayed Victoria's venomous words. "You're useless to me," words that echoed endlessly in the hollow chambers of his heart. Within months, Victoria filed for divorce, feeding the tabloids with scandalous headlines that bled across every newspaper, turning Nathan's private agony into public entertainment. Reporters dissected his manhood, business rivals whispered behind closed doors, and friends distanced themselves like rats abandoning a sinking ship. Even his own parents, Samuel and Diana Carter, cold and calculating, withdrew their support, speaking in hushed tones of his unfortunate weakness while prioritizing the family empire's pristine image over their son's shattered soul. The once vibrant man who commanded boardrooms with charm and authority, who turned every venture into gold, withdrew into a fortress of glass and concrete, erecting Carter Enterprises as an indomitable empire while his heart hardened into stone. Yet as Nathan buried himself beneath mountains of contracts and skyscrapers, far from his isolated kingdom, a pair of emerald eyes watched silently from the shadows. Evelyn Monroe, the daughter of his late mentor, Henry Monroe, whose guidance had once shaped Nathan into the visionary he became. Evelyn had long harbored feelings for Nathan, cherishing stolen glances and silent moments before fate cruelly diverted their paths. Before Victoria's calculated entrance and her father's untimely, mysterious death sealed Evelyn's quiet heartbreak. As Nathan drifted away, consumed by ambition and then tragedy, Evelyn's love never wavered, remaining unspoken but deeply rooted, a flame quietly flickering against the winds of time. She witnessed his rise and fall from afar, her heart breaking with every headline that mocked his downfall. Yet she refused to interfere, honoring his pride while silently vowing to stand as his unseen guardian. And though years turned like restless pages in a forgotten book, Evelyn made herself an unbreakable promise, a whisper carried into the night sky beneath the same stars that once witnessed her secret adoration. "I will wait, even if it takes my whole life. I will stand by him when no one else will." Little did she know that the cruel hand of fate had only begun weaving its dark web, and the love that had survived in silence would soon be tested in ways neither of them could ever imagine. 15 long years had marched by like a procession of ghosts, each year adding another layer of ice around Nathan's shattered soul. And though his name now echoed in boardrooms across the world, his billion-dollar empire towering above cities like monuments of his cold resolve, inside he was still imprisoned by the cruel night that broke him. His blue eyes, once full of vibrant dreams, had become deep and distant oceans, carrying untold storms that no one dared to navigate. For Nathan had mastered the art of locking away his pain behind polished smiles and ruthless business deals, earning him both fear and admiration among the global elite. Yet fate, ever cunning, plotted a reunion neither could have foreseen when Evelyn Monroe, now a seasoned and brilliant corporate lawyer, returned to the city she had once called home, stepping into the world Nathan ruled with silent authority. Her firm, hired to manage a high-stakes billion-dollar merger for Carter Enterprises, placed her directly under the glow of the same corporate lights that illuminated Nathan's empire. But this time, she was no longer the quiet girl standing in his shadow. Her beauty had matured, grace woven into every movement, confidence radiating from her like sunlight piercing through cold fog. When their eyes met across the polished expanse of the grand conference room, time seemed to halt, the air thickening as if even oxygen hesitated to disturb their silent reunion. Nathan froze, his mind torn between the haunting familiarity of her presence and the fierce barricades he had built to keep hope at bay, while Evelyn stood steady, though her heart raced like a trapped bird desperate to take flight, her green eyes shimmering with emotions too long suppressed. "Nathan," she finally whispered, her voice trembling like a fragile melody carried by the wind. And his reply, though cold and distant, revealed the cracks beneath his icy exterior as he said, "Evelyn Monroe." Her name falling from his lips like a name he had silently uttered 1,000 times in his darkest nights. Each stolen glance during that meeting carried unsaid confessions, silent regrets, and bittersweet memories neither dared to voice aloud. And as the meeting adjourned, the heavy weight of their unresolved past hung between them like an invisible wall neither could breach. Yet beyond the glass walls of the towering building, danger brewed once more. For Victoria Sterling, now married to a rising politician, caught wind of Evelyn's unexpected return, her jealousy reigniting like wildfire consuming dry brush, her bitterness sharp as the day she walked away from Nathan, determined to sabotage any possibility of happiness for the man she once betrayed. Victoria slithered back into the Carter family's private circles, whispering venomous words into Diana Carter's eager ears. "That girl always wanted your son. She's waited for this moment. She's playing the long game, Diana." And like clockwork, the wheels of manipulation spun again as Samuel and Diana, still prisoners to their obsession with family prestige, summoned Nathan to their grand estate, where cold marble statues and grand oil paintings bore silent witness to their cruelty. "Don't embarrass this family again," Samuel growled, his voice like iron scraping against stone, while Diana's sharp gaze bore into Nathan's soul as she added, "You're damaged goods, Nathan. The world may forget, but we won't allow this disgrace to resurface." Their words stabbed him, reopening wounds that had barely scarred over. But Nathan, battle-worn and emotionally exhausted, simply stood in silence, his face unreadable, though his fists clenched at his sides, his heart aching at their endless cruelty. Yet amid the storm swirling around them, Evelyn remained undeterred, her love stronger than fear, her loyalty shining like an unbreakable beacon, guiding him through the darkness. She refused to yield to gossip or intimidation, standing tall against the powerful forces conspiring to keep them apart. For the years had not eroded her devotion, but instead forged it into something fiercer, deeper, and unshakably pure. She knew the man behind the fortress, the soul beneath the scars, and she carried within her a quiet yet relentless promise, a love that would wait, endure, and when the moment came, finally break through the walls that had kept their hearts apart for far too long. As Evelyn stood tall against the raging storm of family manipulation and venomous whispers, fate handed her an unexpected key to a secret that had been buried for far too long. While meticulously reviewing Carter Enterprises' vast legal archives for the billion-dollar merger, her trained eyes stumbled upon a set of medical documents tucked between unrelated files, papers that seemed oddly out of place, as if intentionally hidden in plain sight, their edges worn as though touched by nervous fingers countless times. Curiosity tightened its grip on her as she read through Nathan's medical history. The clinical words cold yet inconsistent, pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together. Certain test results contradicted each other, timelines overlapped, and one particular name surfaced repeatedly like a ghost refusing to rest. Dr. Philip Graves, a name unfamiliar to her, yet heavily intertwined with Nathan's most tragic night. Her heart raced as she dug deeper, her instincts screaming that this was no ordinary misfortune, that beneath these pages lay something far more sinister. Unable to suppress the gnawing suspicion, Evelyn discreetly hired a trusted private investigator, a man known for his discretion and ability to uncover truths that powerful people work tirelessly to erase. Days turned into agonizing nights as she waited for his findings, each moment thick with dread and hope battling within her chest. Finally, the investigator delivered a dossier that shattered the fragile illusion she clung to. The truth was far darker than she had ever dared imagine. Nathan had not been a victim of random misfortune, but of deliberate, calculated evil. On his wedding night, as the world celebrated their union, Nathan was poisoned, his manhood stolen from him not by chance, but by the hands of betrayal. The orchestrators stood revealed, Victoria Sterling and Samuel Carter, their faces now painted in monstrous shades she could barely fathom. Victoria, desperate to secure her place in the Carter dynasty, had feared Nathan's growing hesitation to marry her, knowing that his heart once belonged elsewhere, and Samuel, driven by his cold obsession with preserving the family's elite bloodline, had seen Evelyn as an unacceptable threat to their social standing. Together they conspired, weaving a venomous plot that crippled Nathan's body and chained his soul in lifelong shame, ensuring complete control over his choices, his freedom, and his future. Evelyn's hands trembled uncontrollably as she clutched the damning evidence, her breath shallow, her vision blurring under the weight of what she now held. Proof of a betrayal so cruel, it defied the very foundation of family, love, and trust. Rage swirled within her like a violent storm, but so did fear, for exposing this truth would unleash a hurricane upon not only Nathan, but herself, as the forces protecting this secret were powerful, ruthless, and unafraid to destroy anyone who dared challenge them. Her mind raced with questions. How had Victoria and Samuel secured the cooperation of Dr. Graves, and what price had he been paid to vanish under a new identity? But those answers mattered little compared to the monstrous crime already committed. Yet even in her anguish, Evelyn knew she could not charge recklessly into battle, for the emotional scars Nathan bore were delicate, and the truth, though liberating, could easily break him beyond repair if wielded carelessly. Revealing the betrayal demanded precision, timing, and courage, for the war she was about to enter was one of not only justice, but of love. A battle to free the man she had silently adored from chains he never knew were forged by the people who claimed to love him most. As she stared into the moonlit night from her apartment window, clutching the folder like a fragile piece of Nathan's shattered soul, she whispered into the darkness, a vow as fierce as the love she carried. They stole his body, but they will not steal his future. The forbidden truth was now in her hands, and though the path ahead was perilous, Evelyn Monroe was ready to fight for Nathan's redemption, no matter the cost. As Evelyn stood beneath the pale moonlight, the forbidden truth clutched to her chest like a burning secret too heavy for her heart to bear alone. She knew the moment had finally arrived. The moment to free Nathan from the chains of deception that had bound him for 15 agonizing years. The decision to meet him at the secluded lakeside cabin was deliberate, for its isolated serenity mirrored the vulnerability she was about to ask of him. And as Nathan's sleek black car pulled into the gravel driveway, his silhouette illuminated beneath the amber glow of the old porch lantern, her breath caught in her throat. His towering frame approached slowly, his blue eyes guarded yet curious, unaware of the storm that was about to unravel his entire existence. Evelyn opened the rustic wooden door and motioned him inside, her hands trembling as much from fear as from love, for what she was about to reveal would either set him free or break him entirely. Nathan sat in silence across from her by the flickering fireplace, the crackling embers casting dancing shadows across his chiseled features, and after a long pause, Evelyn's voice finally broke the silence, delicate yet weighted with unshakable resolve. "You've been silent for too long, Nathan," she began, her emerald eyes shimmering beneath a soft glow. "But you deserve to know the truth." Her voice quivered, but her determination never wavered as she slid the folder across the polished oak table toward him, her fingertips lightly grazing his as he reached for it, a simple touch that carried years of unspoken devotion. Nathan's hands trembled as he flipped open the file, his eyes scanning the cold, damning evidence that revealed the betrayal orchestrated by the very people who were supposed to love him most. As each page turned, his breath grew shallower, his face draining of color, his heartbeat pounding against his chest like a war drum, until at last the full weight of the truth crashed down upon him. He looked up at Evelyn, his voice cracked and hollow. "My own father? My own wife? Evelyn, why?" Tears welled in Evelyn's eyes as she fought to steady her voice, her words flowing like golden threads stitching together the fragments of his shattered heart. "Because power corrupts, Nathan, and love, true love, is the only thing that heals." The words pierced through his defenses like sunlight, breaking through a storm. And as the gravity of 15 years of pain, manipulation, and betrayal consumed him, Nathan's carefully constructed fortress of ice began to crumble. His broad shoulders shook as silent tears streamed down his face, years of bottled anguish releasing in a quiet storm of heartbreak, sorrow, and bitter liberation. Evelyn rose from her chair and crossed to him, gently lowering herself beside him, her arms wrapping around his trembling frame as his head sank into the warmth of her embrace, his tears soaking into the soft fabric of her sweater. For the first time since that cursed wedding night, Nathan allowed himself to fully weep, not as the powerful CEO the world feared, but as the wounded man Evelyn had always quietly loved. The cabin filled with the sounds of his muffled sobs and the gentle crackle of burning logs, as though the universe itself bore witness to his long overdue release. Between broken gasps, Nathan whispered, his voice small and raw. "I don't deserve you, Evelyn. Not after all this time. Not after all I've become." But Evelyn's response was tender, her voice like snowflakes falling softly on a winter morning. "You deserve to be loved, Nathan. You always have." She gently cupped his tear-streaked face, her thumb tracing the line of his jaw as his blue eyes met hers, vulnerable and wide open, finally allowing her to see the man she had waited for all these years. Their breaths mingled in the quiet, their hearts beating in rhythm beneath the heavy silence that now held a strange kind of peace, as if the weight of unsaid words had finally lifted from the air around them. For in that fragile moment, no words were needed to acknowledge the silent promise between them, a promise that neither betrayal, nor time, nor cruelty had managed to erase. And as Nathan leaned into her warmth, broken yet healing, he clung to the only truth left standing. Evelyn's love, pure and unwavering, was his sanctuary at last. As days quietly slipped by after the shattering truth had been laid bare, Nathan found himself craving not only Evelyn's presence, but the solace her love offered, a balm to wounds long left to fester in silent agony. The weight of 15 years had begun to lift, replaced by a tenderness he had almost forgotten existed. And so, beneath the fading amber sky one gentle evening, he invited Evelyn to his private estate perched high upon the ocean cliffs, where the horizon stretched endlessly, and the waves below whispered songs of forgotten hope. The salty breeze wrapped around them like silk ribbons, carrying with it the promise of freedom neither had known for far too long. They stood side by side, the sun dipping slowly into the embrace of the sea, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, as though nature itself was blessing this fragile rebirth. Nathan reached out, his hand trembling slightly but steady with intention, his fingers curling around Evelyn's, as though afraid she might disappear if he let go. Turning his face toward her, his voice softened, almost breaking under the weight of his vulnerability. "I was lost for so long, Evelyn. You waited. Why?" Her emerald eyes glistened with warmth as she smiled, a tear gliding down her cheek like morning dew upon a delicate rose petal. "Because my heart always belonged to you," she whispered, her voice as steady as the tide that never ceased to return. With reverence, Nathan cupped her face in his strong hands, his thumbs brushing away the fragile tear, as though erasing the years of pain they both had endured in silence. Let me love you, not as the broken man I was, but as the man you always believed I could be. He breathed, his words not a plea, but a sacred vow spoken from the depths of his soul. And in that moment, as the world around them grew still, their lips met softly, the first touch like the gentle reunion of two souls, finally finding their way home after wandering in the dark for far too long. The kiss deepened slowly, tender yet profound, carrying years of suppressed longing, unspoken confessions, and promises left unvoiced beneath the weight of suffering. Their bodies leaned into one another, as though even the smallest distance between them had become unbearable, while the wind swirled around them like a silent witness to their long-awaited union. As night fell and the stars blanketed the heavens, they danced beneath the moon's gentle gaze, their bodies swaying in perfect rhythm to a melody only their hearts could hear. The world beyond the cliffs melting away until only they remained in their private sanctuary of love and healing. Evelyn's head rested softly against Nathan's chest, listening to the steady, soothing beat of his heart, as if confirming that life had finally returned to him. Not as the man the world had crushed, but as the man reborn in her arms. Her voice floated up like a prayer, fragile yet unyielding. I don't need perfection, Nathan. I only need you. And as the stars shimmered like silent blessings above them, Nathan whispered back into her hair, his breath warm against her skin. You've always had me, Evelyn. Always. As the cool morning light broke across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pale gold, Nathan stood taller than he had in years, his once weary eyes now blazing with a renewed fire fueled by truth and the unwavering love beside him. Evelyn stood quietly at his side, her hand gently resting against his back, offering silent strength as he prepared to confront the world that had so mercilessly torn him apart. With the forbidden truth fully unearthed, Nathan moved swiftly, his resolve unbreakable, orchestrating a press conference that would shake the very foundation of the Carter Empire. The grand ballroom where his father once boasted of power was now filled with flashing cameras, reporters jostling for position, and a world hungry for answers. As the room hushed, Nathan stepped forward to the podium, the weight of 15 years collapsing into this one singular moment. His voice, calm yet thunderous, echoed through the vast hall and into millions of homes across the nation. For years I lived in silence, but silence breeds monsters. Today I reclaim my voice, my dignity, and my future. The words hung in the air like electric currents, sending ripples of shock through every listener as the evidence of Victoria's attempted murder and Samuel's vile conspiracy were displayed for all to see. Gasps and whispers spread like wildfire as the layers of deceit unraveled publicly, the powerful Carter name now smeared with the filth of their sins. Within hours, law enforcement moved swiftly, Victoria's face frozen in panic as officers clasped cold steel handcuffs around her wrists, dragging her from her mansion of lies as flashing cameras captured her fall from grace. Samuel, once untouchable, now stood disgraced, forced to resign from Carter Enterprises in utter humiliation, as board members severed ties to salvage what little remained of the crumbling dynasty. Diana Carter, who had spent years feeding her own ruthless ambitions, collapsed under the crushing weight of public shame. Her world of polished appearances and calculated coldness shattered into irreparable fragments. The empire that once mocked Nathan, whispering of his weakness, now watched in stunned silence, their cruel laughter replaced by reluctant admiration for the man who had risen from ruin to redemption. The media hailed Nathan's courage, commentators praising his strength and integrity, but none of their words compared to the silent triumph he felt standing beside Evelyn, the woman who had dared to love him when the world abandoned him. As reporters shouted questions and headlines blazed across every screen, Nathan's gaze remained fixed on Evelyn, his eyes reflecting a gratitude words could never fully express. She had not only uncovered the truth, but had breathed life back into his hollow chest, igniting the fire that now burned with unshakable purpose. And though his enemies had fallen, his greatest victory was not the destruction of those who betrayed him. It was reclaiming the future that had once been stolen, now built upon the unbreakable foundation of love, trust, and the fierce loyalty of a woman who had risked everything to save him. 1 year had passed since the world watched Nathan Carter rise from the ashes of betrayal, reclaiming his dignity, his empire, and most importantly, his soul. But even as accolades poured in and business flourished beyond imagination, none of it compared to the quiet, steady joy that filled his heart every time his eyes fell upon Evelyn, the woman who had anchored him through the storms of his life, under the vast canopy of stars, the cool ocean breeze dancing with the scent of salt and promise. Nathan guided Evelyn to the same ocean cliffs where months ago they had whispered confessions that healed the deepest wounds of their hearts. The waves below roared, like distant applause, the moonlight wrapping around them like a silken ribbon as Nathan paused, his pulse racing with a mixture of anticipation and reverence for the woman who had become his light in the endless darkness. As he slowly lowered himself onto one knee, the world around them seemed to disappear, leaving only their intertwined destinies glowing under the night sky. His voice trembled, not with fear but with the weight of all that had led to this moment. 15 years ago, I lost everything, Evelyn. I lost myself, my faith, my hope. But you gave me life again. Piece by piece, peace, breath by breath. You loved me when I couldn't love myself, stood by me when no one else dared, and because of you, I found my way back to who I was meant to be. Evelyn Monroe, will you marry me? Her breath caught, her hands covering her mouth as tears spilled freely, each drop a testament to years of silent devotion, unwavering patience, and dreams long held within the quiet chambers of her heart. With a voice choked by overwhelming emotion, she whispered, "Yes, Nathan. 1,000 times yes." The ring, a delicate band adorned with a rare sapphire that mirrored the depth of her eyes, slipped effortlessly onto her trembling finger, sealing a promise born not of fleeting passion, but of a love forged in agony, loyalty, and triumph. The stars seemed to pulse brighter, as if the universe itself rejoiced in their union, finally witnessing the fulfillment of a story that had weathered every cruel twist of fate. Months later, under the soft embrace of spring's gentle warmth, their wedding unfolded not with grandiosity but with breathtaking simplicity, a gathering of true friends and the few family members who had proven their hearts pure. Gathered beneath a floral arch overlooking the very cliffs where Nathan had once knelt, white lilies swayed gently in the breeze, symbolizing rebirth, while soft music floated through the air like a lullaby written just for them. Evelyn walked down the aisle in a gown as ethereal as morning mist, her beauty glowing not just from her radiant features, but from the undeniable purity of her heart, while Nathan stood beneath the arch, his tailored suit failing to mask the raw vulnerability shining through his crystal blue eyes as they locked onto hers. Every step she took was a silent echo of the years they had endured, each stride a heartbeat of a love that had refused to die. When they finally stood hand in hand, facing one another with smiles woven from tears and triumph, the officiant's words became mere background to the silent conversation held between their gazes. Nathan's voice lowered to a golden whisper, meant only for Evelyn. In a world full of broken promises, you are my forever, my home, my truth. Evelyn's lips quivered as she mouthed back, "And you are my always." As their vows were exchanged, they weren't merely words, but oaths sealed in fire and water, in betrayal and healing, in devastation and rebirth. When the final words were spoken and Nathan was told to kiss his bride, he cupped Evelyn's face as though holding the most fragile and precious gift in existence, their lips meeting with a tenderness that radiated beyond the guests, beyond the cliffs, reaching into the very heavens that had long awaited this moment of divine reconciliation. It was not simply a kiss, but the merging of two souls who had endured the worst mankind could offer and still emerged victorious. The applause that followed was warm and genuine, but Nathan and Evelyn heard none of it, lost in the silent sanctuary of each other's embrace, where no betrayal could penetrate and no pain could reach. Later that evening, as the stars returned to their watchful posts and the world quieted around them, Nathan and Evelyn sat hand in hand beneath a canopy of twinkling lights, their heads leaning gently together, hearts beating in perfect synchrony. Nathan traced small circles against Evelyn's palm, his voice low and reverent. Every moment I spent without you was a chapter I long to forget, but every moment I will spend with you from this day forward will be the story I was always meant to write. Evelyn smiled, tears glistening once more, but this time from joy rather than sorrow. And I will read every word, Nathan, for as long as breath lives within me. As the wind whispered through the trees like distant applause, the universe bore witness to a love not born from convenience or circumstance, but from sacrifice, unyielding patience, and a loyalty that neither time nor treachery could ever destroy. And as Nathan held Evelyn closer beneath the blanket of endless stars, he knew that while his empire may rise and fall with the tides of business and fortune, what he held in his arms was unshakable, a love eternal, unbreakable, and gloriously undefeated.